So a while ago I did a video about why I don't think Vim makes a very good IDE, and I have kind of changed my mind since then. Not completely, but I'll explain that in a couple of minutes. So if you're new to this channel, remember to subscribe and ding a little bell icon down below because it'll really help the channel out. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs and any help would be really appreciated. So now that's out of the way, enjoy the new opening and let's get started. Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to the channel. So you may have heard me talking about this video on Twitter by Ben Awad? I'm not sure how you say his name. This showed up in my recommended a couple of days ago and it's how to configure Vim to be like VSCode. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. I watched it and this is what I've turned my Vim into. So yeah. So I don't entirely believe that Vim makes a good IDE, but as for a code editor, I think that there's definitely something to that for sure. So I'm going to go through all of these plugins in depth in a separate video, but today I'm just going to run through what everything is and just give you a brief rundown of what I'm actually doing. So the new stuff in here is, let's see, so we've got Vim Code Dark I had before, but I was just using that as the theme for my bar down here, but I didn't realize that it was actually a pretty good theme in general. So there's without my compositor, and this is basically VSCode's theme. If you've ever used that before, you'll notice this looks pretty much exactly the same. And I have gotten to the point where if a code editor or an IDE doesn't have a VSCode theme, I am probably less likely to use it. That's how much I like this theme. So the next stuff we've got is COC Nvim. So this is code completion. I will bring up another terminal and show you what that looks like. So every time I open up a new instance of Vim, it'll also open up this nerd tree here that I'll explain in a couple of minutes. So bring that into full screen. So what COC Vim lets me do, like let's say we've got this username up here. So if I start writing out username, it will autofill that. And that's actually really nice, but by default, COC Nvim doesn't actually come with these features. It'll come with basic auto-completion like that, but as for doing things like this .username, so if we do it in this constructor here, so if we start writing out this, that'll autocomplete. That's cool. I don't want this expression. But then we do this dot, and then it will start listing out the actual properties of this class, and that's where it gets really useful. So you actually get proper IntelliSense style or just general code completion, and that is what I was really missing from Vim. And I've heard that a lot of the other ones are really terrible, but this is the one that people are recommending now, and from my limited experience with it, it is really, really good. Like at the same level of quality as the one that VSCode has. So if we go back to my other terminal, so we also have Control P for fuzzy finding. Some people are recommending FCF. I haven't tried it out yet, but basically what this will let me do. So if we go back into this one, let's say I want to open up, oh, it hasn't actually opened up the node tree in the correct directory. I guess I need to fix that. So if I open up Vim from a different directory, it'll start the directory from where I'm actually at. What I would actually want, if we actually go into here, go into GRC, so that's my cloud programming folder, go into here, and then we open that basic user class again. What I normally like to have it is, so I actually have the current working directory, so I have to actually go into that directory before I open up Vim. Slight annoyance, I probably could fix it, but yeah, basically that's a slight annoyance that I have to deal with for now. So what was I going to show you? It was, oh right, Control P. So if we do Control P, this will bring up this little prompt down here. And let's say I wanted to open up, say, this index.js file. So I can start typing that out. And as we can see down here, it gives me some options that I can cycle through. So we've got this index.html, index.css, and index.js. So if we can open that up, then bam, that just switches to that file. And that is something that I really like to use in VS Code as well, because I don't always like to go through my directory tree. If I know what the file is called, I want to just be able to jump straight to it. For the nerd tree, which is what this directory structure here is called, I've got nerd tree, which is just the main thing. Nerd tree git plugin. So if you notice in here, I've got things that are colored and they've got little icons on there. That'll basically integrate with Git to tell me what files have been basically edited or deleted and things like that. So I can visually see what has been changed. So there's actually two versions of this. I'll explain those further in my full video on this, but one fork doesn't have colors, the other does. So I'm using the one that does have colors. So we've also got Vim node tree syntax highlight. I can't remember what that one actually does. Vim dev icons, that's a very simple one. I'm not going to do a dedicated video on that. That's just these little icons here. Now, I don't know if this is a ST problem with larger than standard size font, but for some reason it's cutting off a little bit of the text of the, basically the image here. So I don't know what's doing that. I'm guessing that's an ST problem because it seems to work properly in like URXVT and iTerms, so I'm not sure. So we've also got this node commenter here. So this isn't a node tree plugin, so I probably shouldn't have it in that section. But what this one will do, so in VS Code, you can do things like select a block of text and then comment them out. And I really like to be able to do that. So if we come in here, say we want to uncomment this block in here. So if we highlight that and then we go Control/, which is the same key that it is in VS Code, that will then uncomment it. And we can then comment that back. So if we go visual block, comment, bam, that's now commented. So that is fairly simple there. It doesn't add the space like VS Code does with it, so it might mess around with the actual layout if I'm switching files over, but it's only a slight annoyance. By default, Vim's syntax highlighting is pretty bad, so you've got to actually install plugins to handle all of that syntax highlighting. So basically, I've got Vim.js, which is for JavaScript syntax highlighting, Vim.jsx, which is for the JSX stuff that you use primarily for React, but I guess there's other times we use JSX. I've only used it with React though. We've got Yats, which is for TypeScript, and then Vim Pandoc, which is for Markdown. So I'll just briefly go over some of the stuff I've got in my VMRC now. So this stuff hasn't changed except for the color scheme, which is now code dark. And you might notice that Vim is slightly slower. It might lag a little bit, but relative to VS Code, it is so much faster. I can't even believe how much faster it is to use than VS Code is, because with files that have even like 200 or 300 lines, it's pretty much unbearable a lot of the time. So in here, so we've got this thing to enable and disable the node tree. That's just Control F. That's fairly simple. And I've got it opening up, as I said, as soon as I open up Vim. So I might change that, I'm not sure. I'm still trying to work out the details. You can bind keys that aren't specifically mappable within Vim to bindings within your terminal, and it will basically print out text directly to the terminal, and you can use that to basically integrate within Vim. Once again, I'll talk about that further in another video with ST, and I guess when I talk about node commenter in more depth. So a lot of the rest of this stuff is basic node tree settings. There's nothing too special in here. This is just for setting the colors and setting the icons that I want to use with my node tree directory thingy here. I'm ignoring the node modules because I don't really care about the node modules folder. If you've never done web development before, basically web development entirely relies on libraries, and all of those are stored within the node modules within modern projects. So if I just ignore that directory, I don't need to ever see what's in there. So there's prettier stuff in here. Basically what that will do is it will just neaten up the file, and I'm not sure if that's working properly just yet, so I need to actually have a further look at that. This is just to make sure my COC Vim plugins are actually running. So I'll talk about this further then, but basically for COC to actually function properly, I mentioned it before, but you have to install different language servers to actually get all of the proper autofilling working. By default, all it will do will find common strings within the file, but to actually get the proper code completion, like what is available within a class structure, then you need to install a language server for that. So I've got all of these different ones in here. The rest of this stuff in here is literally just copied from the COC README, so I'm not going to go through that in this video. I don't think there's anything else too special in here. This is mainly just basic COC stuff, and then we're back to what I've been doing with my Vim stuff that you've already probably seen before. So that's basically everything for what my VMRC does right now. I'll go into, as I said, further depth with the individual videos on each plugin, because I do want to cover all of them in depth so I can actually go over what all of them specifically do. So if you don't want to include those in your setup, you don't have to, or if you do and you want to maybe extend them further, then you can do that as well. So the reason I said that Vim still doesn't make a good IDE, at least in my mind, is because an IDE also comes with things like build tools, specifically automatic build tools. Yes, you can make your own make files, and yes, you can make your own ant files and all of this stuff to actually build your projects, but having an IDE that does this automatically is really, really useful. And if anyone has any tools that are good for those, let me know, because I've been looking for some automatic script generation or automatic build generation for languages like C++ and Java. With JavaScript, it's automatically done within NPM and React and all that, so I don't really have a problem there, and I mainly do JavaScript development. But for those times when I do want to do, say, Java development or C++, I really have to go back to an IDE, as much as I don't want to, because I do want to just be able to live within Vim for whenever I'm doing programming, just because I don't want to have to learn multiple different tools to get all my work done. If I can just rely on Vim to get everything done, that'll save me so much time. So yeah, let me know if you find any tools that are actually good for doing automatic build generation. And apart from that, I don't use debuggers, but I guess some people are fans of those. If I really wanted to, I could just use a console debugger. But yeah, as I said, I don't use debuggers much. And that's really the only stuff I care about for an IDE. What I would love is pretty much an IDE that takes everything that a normal IDE has, even the bloat. I guess I can accept that. But instead of coming with a text editor, you have to integrate your own text editor into it. I don't know if something like that already exists. If it does, that's awesome. But if you could take something like that, and then I could just basically stick Vim into that. So I get all of my automatic build tools, I get my debugger, I get test integration, I get all this other cool stuff, but I can just put Vim into it and then use Vim as my editor. That would be absolutely amazing. So if something like that exists, let me know, because I've never seen something like that, but I think it would be pretty cool. So I think that's pretty much everything for this video. If you like this video, remember to subscribe and ding the little bell icon down below, because it'll really help the channel out. I hope you like the new opening, because there's also a new ending. This music hasn't changed for this one, but I've just changed the ending card that's there. So let me know what you think about that as well. Down below, I've got my links to my library and my Discord and all my other stuff down below, so go check those out if you want to see all of that. And up on that corner, I've got the playlist that this video is in, so go check that out if you want to see other videos like this. It'll probably be in Linux Rising, or I might make a Vim-specific playlist, because I've got a lot of Vim videos coming up in the near future, I guess. And I think that's pretty much everything. Right, my Twitter and my Mastodon, go check those out if you want to go get video updates, because YouTube can never actually be trusted to push them to anyone. And yeah, now that's pretty much everything for me, so I'm out.